Welcome to the HealthSpan Project, a podcast dedicated to helping you learn science and biology that affect longevity and quality of life so you can become more confident, intentional, and proactive about your health. Remember, it's not just about how long you live, but how well you live. I'm your host, Dr. Khan. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this first episode of the HealthSpan Project. I'm so glad that you're here. So let me start by having you guys imagine a house. Just go with me here. Imagine your house. You worked so hard to purchase it. Life is busy. You have kids to take care of. You have your job that's very stressful. You have parents that you're taking care of. And you've got all these daily activities in the middle. So the house is probably the last thing on your mind at that point. You're not really kind of thinking about it on a daily basis until one day you wake up and your main floor is flooded with water. You panic, try to get buckets to try to get some water out the door, get one of those machines that sucks water out of the carpet, the whole 9 yards. And you're calling companies trying to figure out how to do damage control. And you're looking down the road of spending a lot of money and possibly even dealing with damages that you maybe not be able to repair. And some things might require replacement and other things just can't be replaced. Now, imagine that house was your body, meaning a human body, and you wake up one day with a heart attack or something called DKA, meaning a diabetic ketoacidosis if you have diabetes. These are major downstream consequences of either cholesterol, blood pressure, uncontrolled sugars, things of that nature. Things that really don't show their face until something huge happens. And unless you are really looking for it, you really don't know that either the blood pressure is rising or the sugars are rising in the wrong direction, cancer cells are multiplying, etc. It's the same idea as unless you are going to look for that leak, you really don't know that it's building up to be this big flood until that flood actually happens. So why am I mentioning that? The reason for that is that day in and day out, even in hospitals or when I was a resident and even in outpatient clinic at that time, we would see these downstream consequences far more than surveillance, meaning maintenance, right? That too many times by the time the patients would get to me, so much damage had already been done where they're now looking at years of frailty, loss of independence. This is where when they get to the age of late 60s, 70s, or 80s, that they're thinking about assisted living facilities or the fact that they can't even, walk or go from a chair to a standing position on their own. And we kind of chalk it off, we as a society, we kind of chalk it off as, well, that's getting old. That's normal for getting old. Who wants to get old? And quite frankly, that's not true. If you look at places like blue zones, there's about, and don't quote me on this, I think it's about 4 to 5 places in the entire world where there's blue zones, and they call them blue zones because it has people residing in that zone that live to be about, close to 100 or even surpassing 100 and are fully functional. California, meaning a place in our own country, actually has a zone. A couple of them are in Japan, but the point is that it's entirely possible to be older and be independent, be disease-free, be functional, be enjoying life, have vitality. It's not some, fountain of youth sort of like, imaginary delusion or something. It is an actuality. But that comes with deliberate investment in your health, meaning putting the importance of maintenance and surveillance of your health far ahead of just waiting around for symptoms to occur before you do anything about it. It's a lot less costly, both when it comes to money and time, and it's a lot less damaging. Because it's the same way about that house analogy, right? That if the flooding never happened, you wouldn't have had wood rot. You wouldn't have, carpet damage. You wouldn't have appliance damage. All of these things in the long run cost you quality of life for that house too. That floor is never the same. That, walls are never the same. The things just don't work the same way that they used to. And it's the same thing with the human body. So the idea for the HealthSpan Project is to help discuss and learn about how to approach primary care where HealthSpan, meaning quality of life and lifespan, the years lived without disease, are full and front and center of how we approach our medical care. And that's why this podcast exists. As far as about me, I'm Dr. Khan. I'm a medical doctor, specializing in internal medicine with a focus on longevity and prevention. And I have a practice called Mosaic Theory MD based out of Northern Virginia, DC metropolitan area, where I focus on health span and longevity through primary care for my patients. So thank you again for joining me for this episode. I hope to see you week after week and so excited to take on this project. All right, see you on the next episode. Bye. If you liked what you heard on this episode, please do me a favor. Share it with your friends and family and help them become more confident, intentional, and proactive with their health. They will thank you for it. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. See you on the next episode. Disclaimer. Information shared on this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice, and no doctor-patient relationship is formed. Listeners should not delay seeking care from their own medical physician.